Yeah.
Okay. I thought what we might try to do, given the uncertainty that we managed to create over the weekend, over the plan to cancel up to 50 flights a day for the next 6 weeks, is hold a press briefing here this afternoon, and then try to explain the issue and deal with any questions people may have. So, here's the factual position. We, on Friday afternoon, took a decision to cancel an average of slightly under 50 flights a day for the next 6 weeks. We did so because for about the previous 8 or 9 days, our punctuality had fallen from something of an average of about 90% to under 70%. For two reasons. One, we are suffering a lot of ATC and weather delays. Two, while all of our schedules are fully crewed, knock-on delays that are arising from air traffic control and our weather delays are knocking into the following day's flights because of crew hours. And we are also, from the 1st of September, trying to allocate a large amount of annual leave to principally our pilots in blocks of 4 weeks. So we went through, we've been going through the peak summer period without allocating much annual leave, which is why we were able to run the full summer schedule through the busiest months of June, July and August without any significant disruption. In fact, we carried 12.7 million passengers in August, an increase of 10% over the traffic we carried the previous August. We're not short of pilots. We presently have over 4,200 pilots in Ryanair. That is an average or a crewing ratio of just over 5, it's about 5.2 pilot crews, captains and first officers per aircraft, and generally each aircraft only requires 2 crews per day. But what we have messed up is the allocation of holidays and trying to over-allocate holidays during September and October while we're still running the most of the summer schedule, and while we're still running most of the summer schedule and taking flight delays because of principally air traffic control and weather disruptions. I'm not trying to blame air traffic control or weather disruptions. The blame for this lies with us, but we have tried to over-allocate leave to pilots in September and in October while still running a busy summer schedule, and we don't have enough standby coverage to be able to cover the inevitable disruptions that happen around this time of the year. Why did that change occur only in the first week of September? It occurred because we have an unusual situation in Ryanair this year. We're moving from a 12-month leave period. This is somewhat technical. We historically have allocated our leave from the 1st of April through to the 31st of March, so what we call a fiscal year. The IAA required us, starting on the 1st of January 2018, to begin to allocate leave on a calendar annual year. So in other words, from the 1st of January to the 31st of December. And we are running this crossover 9-month period when we're trying to allocate almost 1 year's leave during a 9-month period from the 1st of April 2017 to the 31st of December 2017. And we simply do not have enough pilots in the month of September or October to be able to allocate this volume of leave. The leave is being allocated to pilots as part of our working conditions with pilots. We allocate them, they get 6 weeks leave a year, but 4 weeks of that comes in one block. And we've been trying to allocate this big lumpy one block during the month of September. So in the first weekend, while we had reasonably good punctuality through June, July and August, no disruptions, no crew shortages, we published rosters for both the month of September and October that showed all of our flights being crewed and operated. But as we take disruptions, particularly over the weekends, we had examples this weekend of thunderstorms over Barcelona. We had an aircraft missed a curfew in Dusseldorf Airport on Sunday. As a crew, an aircraft gets stuck, we have no backup crews available, and that knocks into the entire schedule. We have two choices then. We can either run the operation with a 55-60% punctuality, with far more flight disruptions, inevitable cancellations, and huge passenger dissatisfaction caused to 35 or 40% of our customer base. Or we do what I thought last Friday was the sensible thing. We need to take out about 50 flights a day for the next 6 weeks while we have this crewing issue, cancel those flights, and thereby create additional standby pilots and additional standby aircraft that will enable us to bring the punctuality back up to 90% and eliminate the risk of further cancellations over the next 6 weeks. We focused and we issued this notice on Friday afternoon. We focused immediately on Friday on communicating with all those passengers who were due to travel on Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday of this week, and they all got emails before close of play on Wednesday evening. Yes, it was short notice. Yes, it was unexpected, and for that I sincerely apologise, but we were doing our best at short notice to communicate with those passengers who were most likely to be immediately affected. Over the weekend and today, we have now finalised a list of cancellations that will run over the next 6-ish weeks to the end of October. And the figures, what we have tried, and the reason why we're running slightly delayed is, why didn't we just publish the list? Because we spent most of the weekend trying to find lines of flying that we can cancel at a bigger basis. So Dublin, Stansted, Milan, Bergamo, Rome, Fiumicino, where we can cancel flights, but out of airports where we have multiple daily frequencies to London, out of Dublin, to Milan, out of Rome, to Madrid, out of Barcelona. And that by taking out one of the lines of flying out of each of one of those busier bases, we will have many more alternatives to communicate to passengers rather than just telling them, sorry, the flight is cancelled, go away. What we're trying to do is to cancel flights on those busy routes like Dublin-Amsterdam, which we operate 4 times daily. It may be reduced to 3 times daily. Dublin-Stansted, for example, which we operate 12 times daily, may be reduced to 11 times daily, and so on and so forth. And that's why we've had a delay over the weekend trying to work out these cancellations, or to try to allocate these cancellations to those routes where we can offer passengers the most amount of alternatives. We've given you today, this afternoon, the press release. What I've tried to explain in the press release is we've cancelled one line of flying at, 9 of our busiest airports and bases. We've cancelled 2 lines of flying at Stansted. And what we mean by a line of flying, it means, say for example in Barcelona, we have 12 lines of flights at Barcelona. So we have 12 aircraft based there that does 1 full day of flying. We will take out 1 of those 12 full days of flying. Generally speaking, though, on routes where we have other flights that day, and we will now be we're going to be issuing emails to all our customers this evening, as well as putting the attached notices up on our website and on our social media pages. And we've given you a sample, for example, of what flight cancellations will take place on Monday, the 25th of September, 2nd, 9th, 16th, and the 23rd of October. In total, there will be 50 flights cancelled on Mondays, there will be 44 cancelled on Tuesdays, 42 cancelled on Wednesdays, 48 on Thursdays, 52 on Fridays, 48 on Saturdays, 52 on Sundays, which is an average of 48 flight cancellations a day. This is a large number of flight cancellations, but to put it in some context, we are operating more than 2,500 daily flights. So it amounts to less than 2% of the total flying program. I don't want to in any way diminish or play down the inconvenience that would be caused to the 2% of passengers who will be affected by these cancellations, but I do want to point out that 98% of our flights and 98% of our customers will not in any way be affected by these cancellations. And the reason we've taken the decision is because that's what best protects those 98% of flights and the 98% of customers. It minimises their delays, and it eliminates the risk of any other scheduled cancellations because of the crew leave issue. All customers will on these flights through to the end of October will receive an email this evening highlighting firstly the alternative flights that they can transfer to, hopefully on the same or at worst the next day. If they're not satisfied with the alternative flights offered, they can have a full refund, and they will all be entitled to their EU 261 compensation entitlements, and we will not be trying to claim exceptional circumstances. This is our mess up. When we make a mess in Ryanair, we come out with our hands up and we try to explain why we made the mess, and we will pay compensation to those passengers who are entitled to compensation, which will be those flights that are cancelled over the next 2 weeks. In terms of its impact on the company, clearly there's a large reputational impact, for which again I apologise. We will try to do better in future. In terms of lost profitability, we think it will cost us something of the order of up to about €5 million over the next 6 weeks. And in terms of the EU 261 compensation, we think that will be something up to a maximum of €20 million, but it much depends on how many of the alternative flights that our customers take up over that period of time. I want to, on behalf of everybody in Ryanair and on my own behalf, apologise. Firstly, to the 400,000 customers who will be affected by these cancellations over the next 6 weeks. I also want to apologise though to the 18 or 20 million customers over the next 6 weeks who were unnecessarily worried over the weekend and have been worried, oh Jesus, will my flight be cancelled? We were so focused, I think, on Friday about dealing with the weekend's cancellations, we didn't focus on the concern and worry we would cause to passengers whose flights won't be affected at all over the next 6 weeks. And that accounts to some 18 million passengers. Again, to put in some context, the 400,000 passengers whose flights will be cancelled but will be offered alternative flights. I say sorry on behalf of Ryanair. I say we want to put our hands up, which is what we do when we make a mess, and we will try to learn from the mistakes we've made in this case. We clearly messed up in our rostering department. There should have been a better early warning signal coming through the months of July and August that there were going to be operational disruptions in September because we could only barely cover the roster but didn't have sufficient standby crews. Two other issues I will touch briefly on. There's been a lot of speculation, much of it wildly unfounded, as to the outcome of the Mons case in Brussels last week. The Mons case is one of jurisdiction only. It will not affect Irish contracts. We are required by law, mainly for pilots and cabin crew operating Irish aircraft, to have them on Irish contracts. They will continue on Irish contracts. Those Irish contracts may have to affect more of the labour or social conditions or labour conditions in other EU countries, but they already reflect that because Irish labour law reflects EU requirements, which is what drives most other labour obligations in other EU countries. It will not cost us anything in terms of additional pay. It will not cost us anything in terms of union recognition. There's this misleading kind of impression, mainly created by unions, that somehow Ryanair prohibits people joining unions. The Irish Constitution has for many years guaranteed freedom of association. Everybody in Ryanair who works for Ryanair is free to join a union, and if they want to do so, they're free to do so. We, however, are free to continue to negotiate directly with our people, and we will continue to do so. It will not lead to unionisation in Ryanair, and nor will it lead to material changes in our Irish contracts. The one most significant one we can think of that we found thus far, for example, is that we would typically have 12 months probation under our Irish contracts. In Germany, there is a legal preclusion on anything more than 6 months probation. So, for example, the only significant outcome of Mons at this point in time on our Irish contracts would be we may have to reduce the probationary period from 12 to 6 months in Germany. Everybody will still have their union entitlements, their rights, etc., because they're protected under Irish legislation, as Irish legislation has adopted most of the EU requirements. So one other issue is Alitalia. We have made two non-binding offers for Alitalia. There is a process of which we are in the foothills of. There is a third round of offers due to be made by people who are interested in investing in or acquiring Alitalia. It will be the first round of binding offers that is due to be submitted by the end of September. We will certainly be submitting an offer for Alitalia. We will be one of, I assume, 8, 10, 12 parties who will be submitting offers for Alitalia. We have not, as some of the papers reported last week, are about to buy Alitalia, or we are going to make an offer, but it may take, I think, 4 or 6 months for those offers to be complete. I think that's everything I wanted to cover. Hang on before I ask any other questions. Are there any other issues that I've left out in dealing with the rosters? So, do I think this will happen again in 2018? No. What's different in 2018, by the way, is we moved on the 1st of January at the IEA's insistence, we're on to a 12-month annual leave period. So we have 12 months at which to get rid of these 4 or 6 weeks blocks of pilot holidays. The difficulty we're dealing with in September and October is we're trying to get rid of a disproportionate amount of 4 weeks blocks of holidays for pilots, while we're still running much of the summer schedule through September and October. It doesn't arise, we believe, from the 1st of November because we move into the winter schedule when there is less flying. We have more room to allocate annually. How's AGB going? Brilliantly. I mean, there's a reason why, for example, 2 weeks ago in August, we announced record traffic numbers of 12.7 million passengers. Our load factor was 97%. There's only 3% of our seats that are not filled. Passengers are loving the changes we made and the more customer-friendly policy. That doesn't mean that from time to time we don't make mess-ups. And we do, and this is clearly a mess-up. I take responsibility for the mess-up. It is my mess-up, and therefore I have to clean it up. But does it affect, I think, the remarkable progress Ryanair has made under the Always Getting Better banner? No, and I think the 98% of customers who will be unaffected by these cancellations continue to support what we're doing, both under Always Getting Better and by lowering our airfare this year by 6%. Have I damaged Ryanair's reputation with these cancellations? Yes. But I would rather damage the reputation of Ryanair by cancelling 50 flights a day, which would be less than 2% of our flights, than significantly delaying 40% of our flights, which would be something of the order of about 800 flights a day. We are going to disrupt and inconvenience some 2% of our passengers in the interest of minimising the inconvenience and the delays being suffered by the other 98%, and for that I take personal responsibility and I sincerely apologise. Are we short of pilots? No, we're not short of pilots. We have 4,200 pilots today. And we don't agree with the Norwegian figure. As far as we can tell, yes, we've lost some pilots in Norwegian this year. The figure is less than 100. We have also recruited pilots from Norwegian this year. Pilots are coming to us from Norwegian last year and this year. There is a flow of pilots. And to put that in some context, if you take our figure, which is less than 100, I mean, that's less than 3% of our 4,200 pilots. It's not a lot. We do lose pilots. Typically, our rate of attrition on pilots every year is less than 5%. And it's mainly pilots going to long-haul airlines. Norwegian are offering long-haul flights on 787s, and there are some young and somewhat innocent, bewildered pilots who think the grass is greener flying long-haul aircraft for airlines who can't make any money. The Air Berlin pilots are dealing with that at the moment, and I think the Norwegian pilots will be coming back to us in the not too distant future. Yes, we prorated the holiday entitlement. So the pilots went from having a 30 days leave entitlement to something like 24 days leave entitlement. What we messed up, and I think trying to be nice to our pilots, is we agreed though to allocate to maintain their 4-week block. So in a normal 12-month year where we give away 6 weeks of holidays, you get a 4-week block together, which is, by the way, 4 by 5, 20 days plus 16 days. It's a 36-day block of holidays. We said we tried to preserve the 4-week block, and it is that 4-week blocks, those 4-week blocks that we can't accommodate over the next certainly 2 months. We are writing to all of our pilots today. We are looking for people we're actually going to buy back some of those 4 weeks blocks of leave from them, and if we don't get enough sufficient takers or people who want to sell us back some of their leave, then we will cancel some of that leave as well. All leave isn't being cancelled. At the moment, no leave is being cancelled. We are asking pilots to sell us back some of their leave. We can more than adequately cover the schedule for the next 6 weeks and also the winter schedule if we're allocating leave in blocks of 2 weeks instead of in 4 weeks. And we do not foresee at this point in time a problem. Although nothing is set in stone, it's rumoured we'll have a French air traffic controller strike on Thursday, which will hugely disrupt flights and also pilot duty hours on Wednesday and again on Friday and on Thursday if it goes ahead, and may eat into pilot hours as well. But we think by taking these measures, that's the reason we've decided to take the hard choice, take out 50 flights a day for the next 6 weeks. On those busiest routes, busiest airports, we can minimise the amount of disruption that will be caused to other passengers. And our pilots meeting is done today. That's probably Aer Lingus Pilots Union, who, to be fair, will be celebrating this with great glee. We do occasionally make mess-ups, but the history over the last 30 years that the Aer Lingus Pilots Union is usually the one who are wrong, not us. It wasn't delayed in manifesting itself. We were delayed in realising the problem was going to manifest itself. I think we had there were some over-optimistic briefings coming out of our rostering department. They have published rosters that show all of the scheduled flights for September, October being covered, but that's not sufficient when you're running a roster of 400 aircraft. That's 800 pilots on a daily basis. We need to be running with about 100, 150 standby pilots on a daily basis. We're publishing rosters that only have 30 and 40 standby pilots, and that's not enough, particularly given the amount and frequency of air traffic, ATC and weather disruptions we're suffering at the moment. I have made many bigger cock-ups in the last I have a litany of big cock-ups in Ryanair over the last 25 years. I would have thought the biggest one was the move to AGB about 2 or 3 years ago. This is a cock-up that affects 2% of our customers over a 6-week period, and I'm very sorry that 2% of our customers over a 6-week period will be affected, but but it doesn't affect 98% of our customers over a 6-week period, or the other 46 weeks of the year. Yes. And should continue to call for heads to roll in French air traffic control, German air traffic control, but no heads roll. The delays keep getting knocked back to the airlines. Because if we didn't cancel or take out those flights on Saturday and Sunday, I think we would have finished up cancelling far more flights over the weekend, because we would have run into delays of 5-6 hour delays on flights, which would have inevitably knocked on to even more cancellations and more flight delays, because we are too tightly rostered on pilots last week, this week and next week because of all the leave we've allocated to pilots. We run a bigger operation and more flights through June, July and August without any difficulties at all. So the issue and the cock-up we've made is we have over-rostered leave in September and October without having sufficient standby pilots. We affected 400,000 people over a 6-week period when we carry 18 million people. You know, I think we need to kind of put it into some kind of context. By the way, and it's not just the 400,000 people who will be disrupted. I think we'll be able to reaccommodate more than half of those passengers on flights on the same day, travelling to and from those airports. We also affected, though, many more than the 18 million passengers who are scheduled to travel with us over the next 6 weeks, over the weekend and today. Oh God, will my flight be affected? Am I one of the flights that idea? So the challenge for us has been to get the list of flights out. They will all be on the website this evening. So yeah, I mean, this has been one of the greatest days in Ryanair's history. No. Have we messed this up? Yes, we have. For that, I sincerely apologise. And have we suffered reputational damage? Yes, we have. But we will fully honour all of the EU261 entitlements that our passengers are entitled to, without quibble or question. We suspect most of the flights that will be out today, we will be able to reaccommodate passengers on the same day, on the same route, on the same day. That will about 75 to 80% of passengers. The other 20-25% will be accommodated on either the prior day or the following day. We will reaccommodate them free of charge. We will also, if they want full refund, cancel the flight and get a full refund, they get a full refund and their EU261. We will not be paying for flights on other airlines. No. It's not part of the EU261 entitlements. And as the lowest cost, we are being the lowest cost airline in Europe, we can't afford to pay the high fares of our competitors. Yes, because until we implement those, cancellations have started being implemented about 25 minutes ago, and all passengers on those flights and on the flights for the other 6 days will now receive email notifications that they've all been taken off sale. No, I don't think my head should roll. I need to stay here and fix this. Why is it only happening to Ryanair? Well, one, you know, we're about 12 times the size of Aer Lingus, so the numbers are somewhat different. But we're the only airline that is currently moving from this fiscal year or April to March holiday year to a January to December holiday year. Most of the others are already on a January to December holiday year. We're doing it in a year when we're growing the business by some 10%, from 120 million passengers to about 131 million passengers. And we messed up the allocation of leave for the months of September and October. I doubt it. I mean, I'm at the moment working on the heads fixing the problem. You know, we have a reasonably small rostering team. They're very good at what they do. But I need to fix the rostering issues, deficiencies first. And then we need to see how we build in far more resilience so that in future we're not content with the idea, yes, we have the rosters covered for September and October. What's the standby coverage? And if there's a big spike upwards or downwards in the standby coverage, we need to be on top of it. So we'll focus on fixing it first. As the largest individual shareholder in Ryanair, I never give a rat's ass about the share price. I couldn't care less. I'm far more concerned about fixing our schedule, dealing with the passengers who will be disrupted over the next couple of weeks, and whatever happens to the share price today, tomorrow, or next week, frankly doesn't matter. They will have a link in the email that's sent to them, and they'll get it immediately on the Ryanair. Usually on EU261 compensation goes out within a couple of weeks. I mean, when we get claims, as long as the claims are valid, nobody will be substantially out of pocket. Anybody flying Ryanair will not be substantially out of pocket. Our average period. They will be able to get you. We'll be providing the vast majority of our customers to have an alternate flight on the same route on the same day. But yes, we will be processing. There will be no quibble on EU261 on this case. We're not going to be arguing that this is the fault of German air traffic controllers, although partly is, or the weather, although it partly is. This is our balls up. So we will accept responsibility for it. And if your flight is delayed by more than 3 hours, we will be paying you your EU261 compensation without, as long as, by the way, you apply directly to it. We're not accommodating claims being made through ambulance chasers. Yes, sir.
Michael, do you think it's going to make any effect on your plans for interlining with other airlines. How upset are they, or have they made any comment on this?
No, at the moment we don't interline with any other airlines. We do have an arrangement with Air Europa through Madrid. I mean, the biggest interlining we do ourselves is through Milan, Bergamo and Rome, Fiumicino. We have many thousands of people connecting through that. We don't think this is going to be an issue that will affect them. No. And again, without wishing to in any way diminish the scale of the problem, this is less than 2% of our passengers on less than 2% of our flights for a 6-week period after the schools have gone back. I would be very worried about any pilots leaving Ryanair or any other airline to go to Norwegian. I don't believe Norwegian will survive the next 12 months. I doubt it. I'm thinking at this point in time, given our concerns over for Norwegian's financial viability, I think we have brought to an end the discussions with Norwegian. We're focusing now on our discussions with Air Europa and Aer Lingus. We are, but that's for a specific group of pilots, which is direct entry captains. We, if you remember in our history, we're taking delivery of 50 aircraft a year. But because of a gap between aircraft orders with Boeing, we took no aircraft deliveries from Boeing between the end of 2012 and the end of 2014. So we have a shortage of senior first officers coming through the system who meet our 3,000 hour, I think it is, qualification for promotion to captains. So we have a gap coming through this winter of suitable experienced first officers who we can train to become captains to crew the next 50 aircraft we're taking delivery of. We're therefore offering a bonus to direct entry captains. People come to us with a captaincy qualification. They will only run from the end of October this year until the end, I think it's the end of April next year. It won't happen next year because we're back, if you like, we have a production line of high-hour experienced first officers coming through who will be available for promotion. Is there a shortage of pilots? No. I've never yet come across a worldwide shortage of pilots. We don't have a shortage of pilots here in Ryanair. We have 4,200 pilots. We fully operated the entire of the summer schedule through June, July and August, which is our busiest period of the year. I don't think so. I mean, again, because I think you've got to go back to put it in perspective. We're talking about cancelling 2%, less than 2% of the flights for the next 6 weeks, and less than 2% of passengers being disaccommodated for the next 2 weeks. It is up to 400,000 passengers, but that's out of 131 million passengers in a full year. We have made a mess up. It is limited, although because of our size and scale, it does affect a large number of passengers. But does it affect our growth? No. I mean, I think what drives our growth is that we're taking delivery of new lower cost aircraft. And this year, our load factor is up, our traffic is up, and our fares are down. We want to continue that into the next 12 months as well. But we clearly need to invest in more resilience in our rostering department and in the crew planning side. And if we have to increase the crewing levels for the next 12 months, then we'll do that. In the winter period, we took delivery of 50 aircraft up to the end of April 2017, and we take delivery of another 50 aircraft up to the end of April 18.
How many of them are going to sit on the ground over winter?
30 or 40, whatever it is the maintenance requirement.
How does that compare? How many aircraft did you ground last
year?
Similar to last year.
I think, firstly, I apologise to her. I'm sorry we caused her that distress over the weekend. I will assure her we're doing our utmost today, at least to issue the list of cancellations. And if her flight is one of the 2% of flights that are affected, we will re-accommodate her on another flight. I'm sorry we messed up. Do I think in the long term, people who, I mean, our booking engine is full of passengers who have sworn they will never book with us again, but the next time they come to fly with us, they fly with us again. Because the reality is, when you're flying with somebody else, you're either paying them far more money for the privilege, or you're more delayed than you are flying with Ryanair. We do not see a punctuality that is under 70% as being acceptable in our business. The reason we've taken the decision to cancel this small number of flights is to try to get punctuality back up to 90% and at least look after the 98%, which I suspect she's one of the 98%, and will have an on-time flight, and we hope she has a very happy wedding and that she's flying with Ryanair on her honeymoon as well. Next slide. No. Compensation relates to EU 261. It is relating to delays of over 3 hours and flight cancellations. Next question.
So is there...
No, if we're responsible for cancellation, you get your 40 quid back if you have taken the refund and 250 euros as well. No, if the return flight is operating, you take a refund, you get a refund on the return flight, but you won't get 2 months of compensation. You will get the compensation if the flight is cancelled because of our mess up. It's our responsibility. But if your return flight, you have the option of cancelling your return flight. And if the return flight is operating low, you don't get 500 euros in compensation for your 80
get the
euro,
fare back.
80 euro return, but you will get the fare back. Or you can transfer to an alternative flight. Okay, everybody, thank you very much.